White people aren't Neanderthals? Genealogists, biologists have proven that white people, or all non-Africans, could not have changed their skin from African skin to white skin. A new documentary goes over the genetic code of early Europeans and recreated a bust of what he would have looked like. Of course, unsurprisingly, it was an African, a very dark man with in-between features. So he wasn't full-lipped and desert nose, characteristic of nearly all Africans. That's where the documentary ends. They discovered the DNA of early Europeans as being Africans. We already knew this, but the point of that documentary was that a visual representation was finally given, and that visual was unmistakably African. Okay, then how did white people become white? Before, it was believed that Europeans had coupled with Neanderthals, and that explained their whiteness. That theory went on to say that Asians, Near and Far East, had also coupled with Neanderthals, and they too were white because of this, but to a lesser degree than the Europeans, so that they weren't as white as Europeans. Well, enter the next documentary that blows that out of the water and squarely says Neanderthals weren't even white, and therefore no amount of coupling with them would generate white or Asian colored skin, near nor far east. So the theory of white people coming from Neanderthals as an explanation of their white skin was completely wrong and ridiculous, because Neanderthals were nearly as black as Africans, but were not Homo sapien, lived in the cold climates of Europe and Asia Major. So if it's not Neanderthals, Homo neanderthalis, which Africans do not have such DNA, ergo they could not couple with the Neanderthals, then how did European depigment their skin? The explanation is simple and kind of disgusting, but some scientists came out and said modern Europeans, meaning from 4,000 years on up, coupled with everything walking on two legs. Of course, they had to have two legs, otherwise that whole centaur thing would have really been true. But knowing Europeans, they probably were centaurs and they killed them off to hide the fact that they coupled with full-on beasts. But genetics came right out and said no amount of coupling with Neanderthals would produce white skin. In fact, Europeans, like Africans, could not digest milk proteins either until they coupled with two other species outside of Neanderthals, who also couldn't digest milk. These beings that they coupled with are so foreign to Homo sapiens that they don't have names for them. They literally simply map the DNA of hundreds of thousands of modern Europeans of today versus the DNA of about 4,000 early Europeans from Africa to chart the different DNA, and found hundreds of differences from species they are not even familiar with. And that's why white people and Asians, actually anyone non-African, are pale-skinned. And if you're thinking that the nose and lips are different from Africans, that's not true, because Africans have all of that too. Not every African lives near a desert and has large nostrils to take in air to get more oxygen from the hot air. Also, our hair isn't all kinky or in tight coils. Our hair color ranges from deep brown to blonde too. So then, that begs the question, are Europeans Homo sapiens? Technically, no. But to be blunt, but those are close enough that they can couple with Africans and still produce a child. Remember, they were two-legged species walking around on the planet that were near beast-like all the way up to near human-like intelligence. They all died out, sort of. There are still some tribes of white people located around the planet left untouched. The mystery of this pale skin is still left unexplained, though. What were these species that original Europeans coupled with? But make no mistake, it was necessary to live in cold climate and the sunless climates. This is why the white skin actually pervaded throughout Europe. It was good for them. Otherwise, they would have died out like Africans. I need to do that over. The mystery of the pale skin is still left unexplained, though. What were these species that original Europeans coupled with? But, make no mistake, it was necessary to live in cold, sunless climates.